Notion's new layout builder is seriously my favorite feature of the year. And if you work with complex databases that have a lot of different properties, I think you're going to agree with me, because now we can take those properties and put them in a side panel that's very easily shown or hidden with a keyboard shortcut. And there's a ton of customization options as well. We can create specific sections for groups of properties, collapse sections if we don't want to see certain properties, and my favorite, we can actually pin properties underneath the page title and they show horizontally, which means that the all-important content on the page body, like the video script for this video, isn't pushed 1,000 miles beneath the fold. And when I open it up in Sidepeak, I can see it immediately. So in this video, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about Notion's new layout builder feature. This is a free feature. Anybody can use it in any Notion workspace, and it's a feature that is specific to database views. Like the older tools we used to have for customizing database pages, when you use layout builder, you're going to be creating a custom layout that's going to apply to every single page in a database like this one. If I have 500 pages in this content database, all of my changes are going to be applied to all of those pages. So what I'm going to do is first give you a really quick tour of the layout that I've built for this content database. And then we have another copy of this database that I actually want to go through and customize to basically look like this one. So looking through this little layout builder here, first and foremost, I'm going to do Command / to get rid of that sidebar here. We essentially have this nice little side panel. And the first thing I'm going to point out is my favorite little keyboard shortcut here. If you're in a full screen mode, you can do Command Shift / or Control Shift / to basically dismiss this little property panel. If you want to open it, you can use the exact same keyboard shortcut just like that, but there are also a couple of other ways to do it. We have this little view details icon up in the top right corner of the UI right here. And then if you have pinned properties, and I'm going to tell you about those a little bit later, you have this little 3-dot icon, which will also open up all of the other properties and let you view them. If you don't have any pinned properties, you're just going to see view details right here. And that also applies to the mobile app, which I can quickly show you right here. If I open up my Notion app and then open up a page, I'm going to see this little view details link right beneath the page title. I can click that and I'm going to see all the properties on mobile just like that. Moving into the actual property panel here, you can see that we actually have the ability to create multiple sections of properties. So here I have a general details section and I can collapse it if I want to. I have one for relations, like this new repurposing relation in Creators Companion 3.0, which allows us to add repurposed projects like shorts or podcasts or live streams that are maybe related to a sort of parent piece of content. And we have sponsorship details. And these sections make it really easy to see only the properties that you want to see in a specific context. So if I'm planning a piece of content right here, I can very easily see my media type property. I can see my description. I can assign writers and editors. If I'm working with a sponsored piece of content, I can come right down here and set all my sponsorship details, like the sponsorship rate, the URL that they want me to link people to, etc. It's all nicely parceled out here. Last but not least, we have this pinned properties section, and this allows you to pin up to 4 properties, which get laid out in a horizontal manner when there is actually enough room for it. And again, this just ensures that the actual page content, the stuff on the body of the page, is not tucked so far beneath the fold, which is really nice for when you want to quickly access it. I also want to point out that this works really well in Sidepeak mode. In fact, this makes Sidepeak mode even more amazing. It's always been my favorite way to interact with Notion, but now I think it is like the way to do it. So I'm going to zoom out just a couple of ticks here. I'm usually very zoomed in for YouTube videos, but if I pop into this Notion formulas at 5 levels of complexity video at the level of zoom I would normally work in, I've got really, really easy access to all of my script or outline details. If I want to go into another page in this project, I can very easily go into that page right in Sidepeak. Also, pro tip, I can use Command back bracket or Control back bracket on Windows to go back. I can also do forward with the forward bracket command, just like that. So this kind of gives me access to the entire project in Sidepeak mode. And all of my properties are right here. Now, because we're a little bit more horizontally constrained, I've got the property name actually stacking on top of the property value here, but I have very, very easy access to everything. And if I want to close it, now I've got more room to actually work with my script or my outline. I absolutely love this. And the fact that list views are actually responsive, so when I open Sidepeak, it sort of scrunches down like this, means that this is essentially a pane that is useful still, but separate from this pane. And if I want to go into another video project, I can very, very easily do that. So let's quickly jump into this other database that I'm working in, because we haven't actually done the layout customization in this database. So I'm going to use this customization job to actually show you how to do all of this in Layout Builder. So In any page in a database, if you hover over the page title, you're going to see this customize layout button. If you don't see it, it means your database is locked, and I'll have a link in the description down below with a post on how to unlock databases. It's really easy, but if you click this, you enter this brand new experience that allows you to customize the layout for all the pages in this database. And if you want to use a different page for the preview, you actually now have this little preview option up here, and you can choose a different page in the database if you want to, which just makes things really, really easy when you're wanting to make sure things look really good for all different types of pages. You can even, as you see here, choose templates in the database in addition to regular pages. So I'm just going to keep with this Notion formulas at 5 levels, as I've got a cover image here, and it's just going to make things a little bit easier for us to work with. So the first thing I'm going to point out is this here is the property group. And this is sort of like the traditional area where properties typically live. And if you want to, you can click this little 3-dot menu here, and you can move this to the panel. Just like that, you already have improved things because now your page body is not so far beneath the fold and all of your properties are here in the property group. The next thing I'd like to point out is this section over here. Because I have the property group selected currently, this is sort of dedicated to customizing that property group. I can change all the visibility settings for my properties. I can add sections, which I'll talk about in a second. But if I click another group, like this heading group over here, my options over here change a little bit. In this case, I can pin properties, which I'll show in just a second. And when we create more sections later on, the area over here is going to be customized to those sections if we click on them. So the first thing I think I want to do is create different sections inside of this property group. So let's make one for general properties by clicking add section right here. I'm just going to call this general properties. And now all the properties inside the property group are nested inside of this general properties section. Next, let's create another one. I'm going to call this one sponsorship properties. And now if we have any properties that are dedicated to working with sponsors, like sponsor rate, we can easily move these up into this section. And that's how we can start to organize all these different properties in our database. So I'm going to go ahead and move pay due date there. We'll move sponsor performance as well. And one small nitpick that I'll point out here is that moving properties doesn't actually scroll things vertically as I think it should, especially if you have a lot of properties. So that's one thing I would like to see Notion fix. But now I've got my sponsorship properties here in the sponsorship properties section. I'm also going to create a section for helper properties. And this is going to hold basically any properties that sort of run my template, but are not really that useful for users to actually see. So in fact, I might be better served by putting that down there. And we'll go ahead and put things like task meta, localization key, YouTube chapters, all these kind of read-only properties that really don't need to even be read that often. We'll put them down here. Typically, these are going to be properties that are viewed in other views in Notion, like say a gallery view or a list view. They don't need to be viewed here. And if they are in a helper property section, we can very easily keep this entire section toggled closed most of the time, and it's just going to stay out of the way and reduce visual clutter. And that also frees us up to do something that I generally didn't do in my previous Notion templates. And that's basically make all properties that you could potentially write to or edit visible by default. So right now we have this media type property where you can label something as like a short or a long form or a stream. This currently is always hidden. And normally with these kind of properties, I would often say hide when empty, just to, again, reduce visual clutter when there's nothing in there. But now because this is in the panel, I'm just going to set it to always show. And that way, if you want to set that, you're going to see it by default, and you're not going to have to click this 17 more properties button right here to reveal it. I'm going to do the same thing for pretty much all of these properties here. And while I'm thinking about it, page should probably go up in the sponsor section, but all of these should just be visible by default. That way I just have much quicker access to them if I happen to need to edit them from this page. So jumping forward a little bit, I now have my sponsorship property section, general section. I've created a more relations section, a stat property section right here, and then finally our helper property section where everything is hidden by default. The next thing I want to do is actually break one of these properties out into its own section. So if I go to my files property right here, I can actually click it, and if I want, I can add it to my layout. And this is going to give it its own section in our layout builder. Now by default, it's going to go beneath our heading, but if we want to, we can also move it over to the panel just like this. And then if we want to move it above our other properties, we can move it up like that, or we can drag it and drop it if we had more room. Now, files in particular is a property that I really like to have broken out into its own sort of group here. And I'm going to go ahead and apply this to all pages so I can show you on my demo copy here. If I go to this other version that we have and we go ahead and show our details here, we can see that files has actually been kind of redesigned to show images in this much more beautiful layout with rounded corners. And there are actually some other properties that have some specific styling that has been applied to them when you show them as their own property. If we go into this little image database item here, this is basically a database that just has every single property type in it for testing. We can also show numbers in large format, and we can show people properties in large format as well, if and only if they are broken out into their own groups. And I expect we'll probably see some more special design options for other property types in the future. Right now, as you can see, basically every other property type looks more or less like it does when it's just in the property group. So I don't see a huge reason to break these out into their own sections. But again, person properties, number properties, and especially file properties look really, really good if we break them out just like this. Okay, heading back to our actual layout that we're building here, I'm gonna go back to customize layout. The next thing that I wanna do, now that I have my files group up here where I want it, is I wanna go into the heading area and I wanna pin some of the properties that I'm gonna use most often. So basically, when I come into a page in Notion, there's usually gonna be some properties that I'm always going to edit, like the status of the video, the published date of the video, and with the pinned properties section here, we can make those really, really easy to get to. So let's use the search bar right here, search for status. And one thing that I wish would happen is that it would actually filter all of these instead of just highlighting them, but it is a pretty easy way still to find it. So I'm gonna go ahead and pin status just like that. I'm gonna find my publish date property, pin it there as well. And we have a couple of other slots because we can do at most 4 pinned properties right now. So let's also go with the channel relation. And finally, let's find the URL property as well. So these I think are going to be the most often edited and also most often accessed or clicked on properties in this specific content planning database. So now they are pinned. I'm going to be able to see them much more easily than I would otherwise see them here in the property group. So let's talk about relations now. Last year, Notion released a feature where you could display relations in this little section beneath the page header. And that is still present in the layout builder, but it's a little bit hard to access. And I do think Notion should improve this, but I want to cover it in this video just so you know exactly how to do it. So if you want to show relation property down here, you need to find it in the property group. And let's go with sponsor and also focus keywords and tasks for this demonstration. First, you need to click this property. And I think I'll try to zoom in just a couple more ticks to make this really, really easy to see, and click add to layout right here. So this is essentially going to make this relation property its own section, just like we showed with the files property. But now that we have done this, we can now click this little 3-dot menu on this section, and there's this little advanced menu where we can click convert to relations group. That is how you get the relations down here, and it's also how you enable yourself to minimally display relation properties. So now that I have it here, I can see this relations group and I can see all the relations in it. And if I click one of them, I have this show as option, and right now it's going to show as a page section. So if I added a sponsor, I would actually see that sponsor here, and I could actually show properties from that sponsor, which can be pretty useful. But in the case of this template, I want to keep the sponsor minimal, so you'd have to actually click into it to see it. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to show this as a minimal property. Again, I think Notion really should improve this. Previously, you could see all of your relation properties and you could see all of their display statuses without having to click into them. Now I have to click into each one, go to show as and check it there. I think that's a bit of a regression, so hopefully they improve that after this video comes out. But to finish this up, instead of me just complaining all day, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for these other two properties. First, add to layout, then click the 3-dot menu here, go to advanced and add this to the relations group, and finally set this to minimal. So now that I have all my relations there, let's go ahead and apply this to all the pages in the database, and I can show you how this works. So if I add a sponsor right here, let's see if we have a sponsor. We've got sponsor 2. I'm getting big bucks from sponsor 2 over here. If I add that, I'm just going to have one sponsor, and if I want to see who it is, I can click into this little picker here, and I can see that sponsor. If I want to, I can click this little customize shown properties button, and I can also show properties from this sponsor database. So let's just do pay structure, and maybe let's do status. I think that would be pretty useful for sponsors. And if I wanted to, I could also go back into customize layout. And if I always wanted to see those sponsor details without having to click into them, I could change this from show as to as page relation, just like that. apply that to all pages, and now you can see without having to click into that little minimal link, I see the sponsor right on the page just like this. Now, in addition to all these specific property groups that we've been playing with in this video, there are also some more universal options that we can set, and there's a couple of places to find them. So if you go into the heading area right here and you scroll all the way down past all of your properties, you now have the show backlinks option down here. And I think they put it there because now the backlinks link is above the page title. Previously, I think it was down here. So I guess that kind of makes sense. It's a little bit hard to find in my opinion, but that's where it is. And for all the other options, there's this little slider icon next to your database name. So if you click that, that's how you get access to all of your page settings. So you can make inline comments show wide like this or minimal, which is my preference. You can show page discussions and have an actual section for it like that, or you can turn it off. Again, that's typically my preference. And then something new, you can actually turn off property icons, and that does actually make things look a little bit cleaner. So if you're the kind of person who is a bit more of a minimalist, that might be the setting for you. Finally, if you did all of this work, you spent a bunch of time customizing your layout, and then your boss is like, hey, I hate it, don't apply it, I don't like it, you don't actually have to go back and manually reset everything back to scratch. You can click this little blue arrow here and reset this to the original page layout if you want to. I'm not going to do that because I think my handiwork is absolutely beautiful here, except for one thing. I actually don't want to show my backlinks, so I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. Then I'm going to apply to all pages. And now that we are done, I'm going to go ahead and do my Command-Shift-/ shortcut one more time. I'm going to do a little bit of complaining about this feature. Like I said, this is maybe my favorite feature release of the year. I know there were some technically bigger ones that were announced at Make with Notion. This is my favorite, but it's not perfect. So I want to go over 3 little nitpicks that I hope anyone from the Notion team watching this video takes to heart when they're doing improvements. First and foremost, this shortcut, Command-Shift-/ works when you have the page fully open, but watch what happens if I open up a page in SidePeek. Once again, I'm going to go back just a couple of ticks so I have more room on the screen. If I open this up here, it doesn't work. So I have to move my mouse like someone from the 1800s. Oh, so much labor. And that just takes, again, so much labor. Like I already went to the gym today. I don't want to have to move my mouse any more than I absolutely have to when I'm at work. So please, dear Notion, make that keyboard shortcut work in SidePeek. Okay, complaint number 2. While I really, really like the way that files display in their new sort of dedicated property, like right here, I really wish they had better handling for different aspect ratios. So for example, if I go into my book tracker in the brand new Ultimate Brain 3.0, which is actually coming out at the end of this month, by the way, if I put a book cover in this image property right here, which I can actually demonstrate for you, it's just not gonna look that good once it uploads because a book cover is quite a tall image and this just has a fixed aspect ratio. We also have the exact same problem with cover images. If I upload this as a cover image, it's again not gonna look very good. It will look pretty good here in gallery views, like that looks pretty good to me. And I wish that this was an option right here. Either make this tall to actually match the aspect ratio of the book image, or at the very least, squash the book image into this fixed height box so I can see the entire thing instead of only being able to see a slice of it. Now, this isn't the biggest issue in the world. I can click this to see the actual image just like that. It's not really a huge deal, but it would just look absolutely beautiful if it actually respected those aspect ratios. Finally, complaint number 3, I really wish we could create multiple property groups. So earlier in the video, I showed you how you can create sections for your properties. And if I go back to a more complicated database like this one, you can see these different sections here. We can collapse them. That works pretty well. But I really wish that we could take a section that we created in the property group and split it out into its own section that lives somewhere else. Now, I know that we can take individual properties and we can split those out and we could put them, say, over here, but I think it would be really, really useful to be able to create a nice compact section of properties and maybe put it over here. Or maybe have your nice little files property on its own with its nice little beautiful display in the middle of our general details and our more relations right there. Currently, we can't do that because everything in the property group is in the property group and you can't split a section out into its own separate group. So I really hope that that becomes an additional feature we have access to in the future. Now, I know the question on a lot of your minds is, hey Tom, do your Notion templates actually support this new customized layout feature? And the answer is by the end of this month, Yes, if I pop back over to my screen share, you can see this is the new version of Ultimate Brain. It's got this really slick and simple single column workflow that I'm really enjoying personally. And when I open up my task manager just like this, all of my task properties are in this nice little side panel. I've got recurring task properties in their own group. I can collapse that if I want to not see them, and everything is just much, much easier to access than it was before. So a little bit of a PSA, if you already have a copy of Ultimate Brain, if you bought one in the past, we actually have a new beta space in our Circle customer community. We aren't fully launching these templates as like a public launch until near the end of this month for Black Friday, but if you already bought a copy, you've got access to the beta now, and the beta is feature complete. We're just working on our tutorials and documentation, so anybody who wants to can customize their templates using those tutorials in the near future. Otherwise, if you haven't gotten your own copy yet, either of Ultimate Brain for personal productivity, task management, note-taking, all that good stuff, or Creator's Companion, the exact system I use and showed off in this video for planning all of my YouTube content and social media content, you can find links to both of those templates in the description down below. It's also a great way to support the work I'm doing on this channel. If you want to learn Notion, we have a great page over on my website called thomasjfrank.com/fundamentals. Also in the description down below for those who like to click mice instead of typing things in their URL search bar. That is where you can find our Notion basics lessons, as well as a place to sign up for my Notion tips newsletter. And beyond that, there's a couple of videos here and here that you might find useful, specifically this one, which is on another recently released Notion feature. Thanks for watching.